I just attempted to meditate for 10 hours every single day for 10 days straight with no phones, complete silence, and no distractions. And I want to talk to you about it. I almost quit twice. By the sixth day, I genuinely thought I was going crazy. And I thought the hard part would be no distractions, no phone, being completely disconnected from the outside world, my family, my friends, my clients, etc. But the hardest part was the meditation itself. So essentially what it is, it's from Dhamma, taught by the Buddha 25 centuries ago. It's called Vipassana meditation. The idea is pretty simple, right? You spend 10 days in complete isolation, complete silence, just you and your thoughts. Now, for me personally, I don't mind here in Hanoi in Vietnam, so it was definitely a little bit different. I suppose these things are worldwide. You can do them in Europe, you can do them in America, etc. But in Hanoi, it was different because there was about 80 people doing the meditation retreat, and let's say 78 of them were Vietnamese. The teacher was Indian, and I'm Irish, right? So there wasn't much communication that I could have done even beforehand or afterwards. A couple of people spoke Vietnamese or spoke English, sorry. And yeah, that was a challenge in itself, especially as well being in Asia, being in Vietnam. There was a lot of kind of cockroaches, a lot of mosquitoes, and the living situations, our residential quarters essentially, were a little bit grubby. I'll overlay some footage of like the bed that I was sleeping on and the kind of area around where we were. But that made it incredibly difficult to sleep, especially with the strict routine of alarm bell goes at 4 a.m, you're meditating for 4:30, you meditate for 10 hours a day with maybe 5 breaks in between each hour-long meditation session, then some longer breaks as well. So the sleep deprivation, cockroaches, the mosquitoes, all that made it already pretty challenging environment to actually be in. Now, the reason that I actually done it was, for one, I wanted to challenge myself, right, and see if I could do this. Now, I was looking into it beforehand, watching some videos, etc., just like this, in terms of what it's about, what you actually do when you go in there. And my reason was, of course, like to challenge myself. For one, to fuck around and find out essentially if this is a thing that I can do. Also to try gain some clarity, to try, I suppose, silence that negative inner self-talk that we all have and that is so apparent, especially when we're bound by distractions and comparison to other people. What would life be like with just me and my thoughts? And genuinely, that was a shit fucking scary experience, or a scary thought, at least for me to go into. When if anybody knows me, I've got self-diagnosed ADHD. I find it very difficult to focus day to day as it is. So I thought maybe without the distractions, my ability to focus would potentially improve. I would potentially just gain some clarity, because realistically, I think we're all in a situation where we have no idea what the fuck we're doing. And again, I thought that would give me a little bit of clarity coming out the back end. And my expectations of what would be tough is the distractions, the no contact, but the meditation itself is the difficult part. When your mind is in 1 million different places at a time, as mine always is. Even me trying to sit down and record this video, my mind is like, what's going on outside? What do I have to do? What happened yesterday? Yada, yada, yada. Mental. So the meditation itself, the ability to focus, was easily the hardest part, and genuinely the lack of contact with the outside world, the not having the phone, that stuff was bliss. It was beautiful to get away from all of that, apart from the living conditions and the cockroaches and all that. It was actually quite nice to get away from all that, but the meditation was so difficult. And just aside from the lack of focus, the fact that you need to sit down in Anapana, which is the meditation pose, I suppose, with the crossed legs, the straight back, the closed hands, etc., the closed eyes, the pain in your back, in your knees, in your hips, on your feet gets to a stage where it is unbearable at times, and you just need to get up and move. So I'll talk you through it. So the first day, right, you go there, you hand in your phone, you hand in everything, right, you just left with your clothes essentially, pretty much, and that's all you've got. You go into your residential quarters, you meet everybody, and then noble silence started from like 8 p.m. on day 0 before you go into actually day 1. Then you do a little bit of meditation. So the first 3.5 days are what they call Anapana. So all we done for 3.5 days, 10 hours a day, was focus on this little area, right? That's all you're doing. You're focusing on the breath going out and the breath going in. That is absolutely it. Now, they call this a surgery of the mind, a surgery without anesthetic on the mind, deep surgical operation on the mind. And by focusing on this one little small area, you are trying to sharpen your mind for the surgery. It's almost like preparation for surgery, and that was what the first 3.5 days were. And all you're doing is you're trying to observe. It can't be forced, it can't be intentional breathing, it can't be. It's naturally as a baby would as they come out of the womb, is the way they explained it. You're trying to sharpen your mind for the operation itself. And that in itself, of course, was a challenge. Like it sounds very simple, but in my mind, for me, I had a radio playing in my mind for 10 days straight that I could not turn off. So when you have music in like one part of your brain, you have this kind of frontal area that you're really trying to focus on the breath, on the body, on the sensations, you have all that. You get the music here, you got the trying to focus at the front, and then over this side you've got random thoughts, creating hypothetical scenarios about the future and how you could have done things differently in the past and it would have led to a potentially different experience, thinking about good things, thinking about bad things, and just like absolutely everything in between. And when you actually like sit with your mind, you realize the fucking crazy thoughts that we are having on a day-to-day basis. I can't remember the exact number, but I seen there was some study done about the amount of thoughts that we actually have in a particular day, and it's well up in the thousands. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And when you sit there and all you have is those thoughts to sit with, you're like, holy shit, I think I might be a crazy person. Now, what the technique is actually trying to do with the whole Vipassana technique is practice of Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. So Sila is living a moral life. Samadhi is being the master of your own mind. And Panya is wisdom. So you're trying to develop these 3 traits in order to eradicate misery. Now, after the 3.5 days are over of just scanning this, doing your Anapana, you go into the actual surgery, the Vipassana meditation retreat. And this is where things got like a lot more difficult for me personally as well. So you have to scan your body from head to toe. You start at the head, you scan all the way down to your feet. So you'll go from like the scalp, the head, the nose, the cheeks, the shoulders, the arms, the torso, the back, the quads, hamstrings, glutes, the feet, and you'll come back up. And you're trying to scan for sensations, essentially. So we are experiencing sensations all the time, whether pleasant or unpleasant. And the goal is to remain completely balanced within your mind. I can still just remember this Gwanka fella who was teaching it saying, remain totally equanimous. He's an Indian guy, right? Perfect equanimity is essentially what you will hear every single day so many times, because it's on like speakers coming from each side of the room. So you feel a pleasant sensation, you don't react, you remain completely equanimous because you feel a good sensation, you create craving and you create clinging towards that sensation, and then that's what can form habit patterns that keep us potentially addicted to things, continuously craving things that we do not have. And that in itself can lead to, like, we always want things that we don't have. It's a comparison. Oh, I want the car, I want the girl, I want this, I want that, and I don't have them. And this is even for me, I was missing a lot of things in my life at times as well. And I was like, I physically do not have them. So the fact that I'm missing them and I cannot have them is a recipe for misery, right? So if I can just have that, feel that sensation, feel that thought, and not react to it, that will help. Now, on the other flip side of things is like, you feel a negative sensation, you'll create hatred towards it, you'll create aversion towards it. So obviously that's just negative, right? You don't want to have hatred, ill will, bad negative thoughts towards a negative feeling. So you just try to remain totally balanced, whether it's a bad sensation or whether it's a good sensation. Now, there's also a lot of talk of like the vibrations, and this is super like spiritual and stuff like that. I'm not a massive believer in all that stuff. Maybe I'm becoming to believe these things a little bit more, but like the energy, the vibrations, the yada yada yada, right? I was never a big believer in that kind of things. I think it's more so just the fact of like, you're not used to sitting down and doing nothing for a long period of time, and it's just difficult to do, and that's fine. Now, my first breaking point was day 6. I genuinely thought I was going crazy. Genuinely thought. Couldn't turn this music off, couldn't turn the radio off in my head. I thought I was going crazy. So I spoke to one of the assistant servers, pulled him aside, obviously didn't speak Vietnamese, had to be Google Translate, that kind of thing. But he set up a meeting then with the teacher who did speak English, which was nice because she was Indian. And I told her I want to leave. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't feel like I'm reaping the benefits of this actual method, of this technique, because I simply cannot focus on absolutely anything. Can't turn this radio off my mind. I can't stop thinking about all these things over here. And every time I try to scan my body, my mind will go here, or will listen to the music, and then it will stop. I'll be like, where was I? What was I doing? Oh shit, I need to start again. And then you fail, and then you fail, and then you fail, and continuous failure upon failure, anybody's going to quit, right? I think about it like fitness, right? Because I'm a fitness coach at the end of the day, right? If a client came to me and they failed on week 1 and they failed on week 2 and they failed on week 3, right? They're probably going to fuck off and they're probably going to quit, right? That's essentially how I felt. Now, thankfully, the teacher was a really good coach. She was great. So I walked in, she obviously knew what I was there for. She told me how proud of me that she was already. She could see that I was physically agitated sitting down the back, and that I couldn't cross my leg and constantly kind of trying to move and fidget. So they got me some back support. They actually got me a chair at one point, but I felt like I kept falling asleep on the chair as well. Again, because you're so sleep deprived. And if you're just sitting down, I kept nodding off a lot of the time as well. So honestly, none of that helped. My biggest issue was the focus. So she told me to just stick it out for one more day, see how it feels, and then by day 7, like the whole of day 6, so I spoke to the teacher about 6 p.m. on day 6. I was like, listen, I want to leave tomorrow. So I went in again on day 7, obviously after our conversation. I had a really good meditation session. Then in the morning I was like, okay, I feel like I'm back, I feel like I can kind of make this work. And then after, once it hit like lunchtime, 11 a.m, after that, the whole like 11 a.m. to 9 p.m, like that's 9 hours, 10 hours straight of just like, no, I can't do this, I can't focus. And then you're creating these negative thought loops again, and you feel like a failure, because the goal is to remain equanimous. The goal is to remain balanced through these negative feelings, through the positive feelings, through the negative, through the positive. Not get too high on the highs, don't get too low on the lows, right? And again, you just feel like a complete failure. So again, day 6 was the first breaking point. Tried it, got better, again got worse. And then by day 8, the teacher had written me a letter to tell me to come to the group coaching part of it, where we will all sit in front of the teacher and she will explain some methods to us and things like that. So she wrote me a letter to come to that, because obviously we couldn't bring journals, we couldn't bring pens or anything. There was a pen written on the letterboard to say that you wanted to speak to the teacher privately. So I used that pen, and the note that she had written me, and on the back of it I was, listen, teacher, I'm very sorry for the inconvenience, but I'm going to need to leave tomorrow. I simply can't do this. I'm not getting the benefits. I simply cannot focus. So I do not want to be here anymore, and I feel like I'm going crazy. So again, she called me in. She spoke to me. She was like, there's 2 days left. You don't need to do the full 10 hours anymore. You can do the 3 main sittings that are in complete Anapana, the meditation pose, and you can come to this course in the evening, which is where we would listen to the real teacher who had died, I think 12 years ago. S.N. Goenka was his name. We would listen to him. It was almost like a podcast that we would listen to every evening. I had to do it in complete isolation. Everybody done it listening to Vietnamese. I had to do it in my own little box room, watching the TV in English, essentially. So I just had to do essentially 4 hours a day, and then she let me kind of interact with the servers. I went into the kitchen and I was kind of helping out with the food and things like that. That's another point. The food was actually really fucking good. It was all vegetarian food, so me as a fitness coach and into the whole fitness side of things, couldn't eat any protein, couldn't train, tried to do a few push-ups, a few inverted rows, a couple of sissy squats. I done pull-ups on a laundry bar at one stage, which is just meant to hold clothes, so how it held like 75 kilos of body weight, I don't know, but I was very scared while I was doing it. But I felt like I had to get a pump, so looking forward to getting back into the gym today, I will say that. Where was I? See what I mean? My mind just fucking wanders and I go on tangents. So the last 2 days, they kind of lifted a little bit, because it wasn't as intense for me. I got to go into the kitchen, help out a little bit. I could actually speak with the other Vietnamese cooks and stuff like that, the servers, just kind of through Google Translate. And honestly, that lifted my spirits a lot. Like, it lifted my spirits, but I was also like, well, it feels good right now, but it's not the full benefit of the technique and way I came here, you know. But again, it did kind of take the pressure off for me a little bit. And I got speaking to this guy called Nam through Google Translate, speaking to him for like an hour, and he was telling me his story, and it's absolutely inspirational. Like, he's like inspirational in a sense, but he's 29 years old now. From the ages of 20 to 26, he was heavily involved in drugs and negative experiences and all around bad vibes. He found meditation when he was 26, so we've been practicing for 3.5 years. And one thing he said to me just stuck with me. He was asking me if I have a girlfriend and what I'm doing and things like that. So I was asking him then the same things. I was like, well, do you have a girlfriend? Do you, like, what goes on in your life? He was like, on Google Translate, he was like, no, I will meditate alone until I am old. So I think that's him essentially becoming a monk. But he said he used to train a lot, he used to play a lot of, or do a lot of boxing as well. And he had a strong body, but his mind was very weak. So now he is the most strong-minded he has ever been. Although that comes with like weaker physicality, he would prefer to just be completely strong-minded, and his purpose is so strong, and that's just what I find genuinely pretty incredible. So it was good to have those conversations as well and to take the pressure off. So we got through the last 2 days, and then by day 10, the noble silence completely ends. So there was maybe 2 or 3 people who spoke a little bit of English that I could speak to, and it was just great to see everybody kind of happy and interacting. Some people will have really good experiences, think it's very beneficial. I spoke to another girl who was only 23 years old. She was like, I'm so disappointed in this. I didn't get what I wanted from it. I spoke to some other people who were like, I feel great, I feel light. I really came to terms with some negative thoughts that I was having. So all in all, it was just nice to see everybody chatting, and you realize how much we kind of rely on social interactions as social creatures, right? Because there was one point, I don't know what day it was on, but I walked outside my room and I actually just laughed to myself because everybody was like zombies. like you see people and they're like, zonked, looking out over the horizon, looking at the mountains, looking at nature. There was one guy who was just like picking up dead cockroaches and lining them up. If I can put a picture of it here, I will. I think there were cockroaches. That's what it looked like to me. Just picking up the shell of dead cockroaches and lining them up, man. Boys will be boys, right? It's like, it's mental. But aside from all of that, like, am I happy I done it? Yes. I completed the challenge of like being away from my phone and being away from the outside world. So like there's positives to take, there's the quote unquote negative of I don't feel like I got the correct benefits of it. Now, like as I said when I was watching videos on this beforehand, people say it's like trying to, if you've never really meditated before, which I hadn't, I've done a little bit of meditation here and there, but nothing consistent and nothing for longer than like 10-15 minutes. People will say that like going from that to trying to do 100 hours in the space of 10 days is trying to like trying to hike Mount Everest in a pair of flip-flops, and that's essentially what it was, right? Stupidly challenging, difficult, but maybe it can be done, right? Maybe it can be done. And for me, I don't feel like it could have been done, so I'd like to do one again with a little bit more meditation experience under my belt. They do say that you should practice for 2 hours every single day after it as well. 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. And you might seem like, well, Jesus Christ, that's a massive commitment. But they also say when you meditate for so long in a day, you will need like an hour less sleep, plus you will be like an hour more productive. So when you put it that way, I think it actually makes sense. But you probably won't reap those benefits until about 6 to 12 months into doing it. So again, what Nam told me, the guy who, the 29-year-old, he told me it's the most discouraging, difficult thing that you will do when you get into meditation, and you need to get through that discouraging kind of sticking point within there until you get to that stage where you feel like it is actually benefiting your life. And yeah, one thing that my mind kept coming back to as well is I will be okay no matter what. Feel like I'm going crazy, feel like this is messed up. I am not my thoughts, essentially. So my thoughts are there's millions of them. I am not my thoughts. That was a big lesson for me. Plus the ability to remain equanimous in negative or positive situations, I think is going to be huge. Even just now, I've been out of the retreat for just 24 hours now, and some thoughts that I have that would usually cause like a little bit of a spike in heart rate, I'm finding the ability to just be okay with those thoughts, because they're still negative thoughts, they're still positive thoughts, there's still negative sensations, positive sensations, and the ability to just remain a little bit more balanced throughout those, I find has actually been relatively helpful. So I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I will take away from all of this. Do I think you should do one? Do I think you shouldn't do one? Honestly, I think it's a good experience for the majority of people. Now, they will screen you before going in with a bit of a consultation in terms of any previous mental health difficulties and your general life, your addictions, your habits, your things like that. So the people that don't think should do this are like clinically depressed people or people who are in a very, very bad mental state already. And the reason being is if you have this kind of bias towards negativity already. There is a lot of speaking from Goenka, the main teacher, died a couple of years ago, from obviously the purity of this technique, coming from the Buddha 25 centuries ago, which is quite a long time. It's trying to maintain its purity throughout. And the big thing that he speaks about is misery, and this technique being the only way to eradicate your misery. So take me, for example. I don't feel like I was successful in this retreat, right? And If he's telling me that this is the only way to eradicate any misery or negativity in my life, and it was a failure, what's that going to mean coming out the back end of it now? Thankfully, don't get me wrong, I've had some pretty fucking tough, challenging mental times, kind of binge eating disorders being the main psychological factor, being the biggest kind of difficulty for me. And of course, there's some depression in the family and stuff like that, so it's potentially hereditary as well. But yeah, you can imagine somebody coming out of that, hearing that, hey, this is the only way to eradicate your misery, your negativity, your depression, etc. And then failing and not feeling like they got the benefits of it, they're going to think they're eternally doomed, right? So if you're in that situation, I would probably seek some psychological help or something along those lines. I'm not an expert in this field at all. I can only speak from my own experience. But yeah, if you're really struggling mentally, I would probably take a different route, or maybe just try to practice some meditation by yourself, because I do think it's definitely still a very valuable thing that we can do in our lives. But if you're somebody who is just curious about your mind and the way it works and trying to do something a little bit challenging, you're already in a pretty decent mental state, and you don't mind sitting with physical discomfort for a very long time and being away from family and friends and phones and distractions. And obviously it's quite a big commitment, right? I was obviously quite nervous to leave my clients. I think the majority of them were pretty understanding. If you're watching this, I love you, for my clients. So that was a big kind of step for me to take, but thankfully it was okay. It was okay. Alternatively though, if you're going in expecting to fix absolutely everything negative about your life in 10 days, then I would just adjust your expectations accordingly. You will have to work incredibly hard. It is not easy. It is really not easy. It's not a relaxation retreat. It is 10 days of physical discomfort and mental discomfort, and going very deep and performing surgery on the mind. So just adjust your expectations accordingly and know what you're getting in for. And hopefully this video is kind of helping you understand what it is that you're going in to do as well. So yeah, for me personally, it wasn't about peace or enlightenment. It was more so fuck around and find out. Bit of a challenge. See what's going on when I have absolutely no distractions. Would I do it again? Potentially, as I said, with a little bit more meditation experience under my belt. So we'll do that. We'll potentially do another one again next year. But I'm very much looking forward to the journey ahead. See where it goes. See where it takes us. But yeah, for right now, I think it's time to try and do my best to fix or cure, or at least improve, my ADHD tendencies before I go into something, before I take such a big bite that I can't chew again. So that's the plan for me right now. Hopefully this video was useful. If you've done this kind of experience yourself, I'd love to hear about your experience, have a conversation and a back and forth about it. Leave it in the comments, drop me a message, whatever it is. But thank you very much for watching. Feel free to drop a like or a subscribe if you fancy. If not, I hope you have a bloody lovely day.